Hey, what's up, everybody? The VC here, coming at you with another video, and it's about anything and everything: lifestyle, life, entertainment, things that are going on that just something to talk about. And so with that, it's been this for me this ongoing coverage of this LA wildfire because I'm kind of waiting to see at some point once it gets contained, like how things are going to change. Is it going to be a big change or not? And I don't know, I'm just kind of fascinated at how a change of events, something of this nature can really just change direction of what we were doing, what we're going into, and really expose dummies and scumbags like, Newsom and Bass and all that, and all these blue cities and stuff. And this is funny to me. How just like that. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it's been like that for some time when it comes to exposing Newsom for what he truly is, and he's just a sleazy, scumbag, car salesman, so full of shit and lies right in your face. And he continues to just expose that over and over and over again. More people are talking about it. More people are outraged. And I don't know, maybe there might be some change in California, but we'll see. But yeah, I just wanted to give you an update on. For me, I'm always gonna just really look at how much containment is there right now. I really want to know how far along we are in this thing, and if there's going to be further destruction of LA, because that's what's happening right now. It's almost like a reboot of LA that's happening, and and what bothers me is that they're already talking about LA 2.0 and stuff like that. We're talking about these liberal, progressive politicians in Bass and Newsom already talking about LA 2.0. Like, how about let's just get the fire done first and not worry about LA 2.0 right now, and that's what they're doing. They're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be better than ever. And it's like, well, how about let's just talk about solutions? Hey, you know what? We're not going to talk about LA right now in terms of the future. Let's just try to get this fire squashed, and work on people's recovery. And then we'll talk about the future LA. That's just what bothers me. So far, 40,000 acres have burned in the LA area. The last number that showed that of how many were killed is 24. They said more than 20 on this Washington Post article. And it's funny how a Washington Post and all these sort of liberal, what do you call it, liberal media, especially this type of liberal media, has really changed, course since the election, right? Washington Post, LA Times, they've all kind of shifted towards at least the middle, if anything. They're not trying to go to the right. Those are just fine, but just be fair and balanced is all is all we need, right? So today, more strong winds are forecasted, and they're looking for like there's like I guess a warning through 3 p.m. today. Um, with this whole winds warning, so they could gust up to like 70 miles per hour. And so far, a Palisades fire, which is the first big fire that popped up, it's 19% contained. The Eden fire, I don't know if they show it. There it is. The Eden fire, they said, is 45% contained right here. So those are the two big ones. They had like up to 6 at one point. And then they squashed the other ones, other smaller ones in the middle. The Hearst fire is still there. That's a smaller one that they were able to control. I think the last I saw, that one's nearly yeah, there it is, 97% contained. So they got that one under control. The auto fire sprang up I believe yesterday, which is in Ventura County here. So it's really farther up, a little bit farther up northwest. It's kind of a coastal area. It kind of reminds me of, if you're in the Ventura area, it kind of reminds me of like San Luis Obispo, that type area, Monterey, you know, if you've ever been in California, but never been to Ventura. It's about, Ventura's probably about an hour west of LA. So yeah, and that Palisades fire is huge. It's only 19% contained right now. So right now they're attempting to prevent fire from reaching the LA's Brentwood neighborhood, home to the Getty Center Museum and Interstate 405. Yeah, I know exactly where that's at. The Getty is actually a very nice art museum. If they get to the Getty, man, ooh, that's pretty bad. It's a nice museum. That would suck if it were to go up in flames, you know. Eaton Fire, to the city's east near Pasadena. The fire, one of the deadliest in California's history, has burned through more than 14,000 acres. The Auto Fire, which is the one in Ventura, they call that the Auto Fire, right? Let's see. So yeah, it's nearly half contained. It says death toll did not increase, so that's cool. Trying to keep it at where it's at. Hopefully there's not any more. But yeah, so that's the latest here on containment, and strong winds still threatening to, I guess make this fire worse. So hopefully it doesn't. And anyhow, of course, the aftershocks of the wildfire, right? You know, what's been happening here. Calls for resignation or recalls. All right, so there's shit like this, right? Karen Bass, I don't get Democrats. I just don't get it with some of these, with pretty much all Democrats. They're unapologetic.
Calculation is now easier
and like,
than ever.
What's so bad at admitting I'm sorry? You know, I know that there's this destruction that occurred. I'm sorry, you know, like I just don't get it. Rather than just deflect, or blame someone else or whatever, right? She asked point blank if Los Angeles citizens an apology for cutting the fire budget. Of course, she's not going to bring that up. She's not even going to apologize for flying out. She's not going to apologize for having better protocols in place. You know, since she is the top of the position, does she have like backup, like vice mayor or something? You know, say, hey, if anything happens, you are, controlling the strings here. You're pulling the strings, that type of stuff. So let's see here.
Hello, Jane Secker, Sky News. A couple of questions. One to Fire Chief Maroney. More bad winds on the way. We know the conditions, as we've just heard, are going to be the same as last week. How confident are you that you're better prepared this time? And also a question for Mayor Bass.
Here's a simple answer: better prepared. They have all the personnel there to be on standby now versus nothing at the very beginning when it comes to this wind.
If I might. Our correspondent David Blevins asked you last week if you owe the people of Los Angeles an apology for cutting the fire budget. You didn't respond to him then. Would you like to respond to us now?
So for the fire question, thank you. We're absolutely better prepared for this coming PDS, the severe fire weather event. You've heard the statistics.
Yeah, the personnel, they're on standby.
Personnel assigned to the incidents, over 5,000 firefighters assigned to the Palisades fire, over 3,000 firefighters assigned to the Eaton fire. The state, under the leadership of Governor Newsom, has set up a mobilization center in Banning where we have resources staged that can come into LA County to assist with a new fire start or the expansion of one of our existing fires. We also have numerous aircraft local government aircraft, helicopters, we have water bombers, we have retardant fixed-wing aircraft.
Yeah, see, the simple answer. They're better prepared because everything's there now. It's just when it first started, there was nothing there. So obviously, it broke out because, it's just you don't expect it, and it happened, right? So that's the simple answer there. We want to know Karen Bass.
From the state and federal government. We have military aircraft. So we've not only augmented the ground resources, but also the air resources. I think that we're very well prepared for the next event, but that's never going to be, we're never sure that we're going to be able to catch the next fire and keep it small. They said 70-mile-an-hour winds.
Yep.
It's going to be very difficult to contain that fire. That's why we ask all residents in a brush-prone area to be prepared to evacuate if you get the evacuation order and start those preparations before the evacuation warning comes. Thank you.
There was a two-part question to that, correct?
My focus is on us being prepared as a city for tomorrow. As you began, we could face another very difficult situation for thousands of Angelenos. When we are past this period, there will be an evaluation of everything that went on. And at that point in time, we will see there is not agreement as to whether or not the budget was cut. All of those issues will be resolved when we are clear that Angelenos are safe and we are ready to rebuild our city.
Preparation.
So she didn't answer that. And this lady right here, she's the Department of Water, whatever, right? The person that runs the water reservoir plant area in LA that makes $750,000 a year. Can you believe that? That's a lot of money. And to have an empty reservoir in the back, in the Palisades area of all places, is inexcusable. Should have been water regardless if it was going to be filled with dirt or not. Contaminated with dirt. At least water would have been there. Would they have had to sort through it, clean it up? Yeah, maybe. I mean, or another possible solution is, how about actually get the work done? Because it's been sitting around for almost a year with zero work done to that area and an empty reservoir. Why? Right? There should be some looking into that as to why it hasn't been touched and it's been like a year. But that just par for the course of everything else in California, how everything is always slow when it comes to these sort of things. The bureaucracy of everything is just slow. The process of everything, get the gears grinding, is slow, like molasses slow. I mean, look at the whole reservoir thing. 10 years ago, the proposition was passed to build more dams, but yet not one thing has been built, but instead they reversed course and took down 4 dams, right? But obviously we need more, right? We need more. We need just better. The decision making is terrible, all right? That's just what it is in the U.S. So, it's just crazy how bad things are. Right? Let's see here. This is a fascinating thing here about this whole, interview with Gavin Newsom and Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla's been around for a long time. I think he was like a DJ at one point, to doing podcasting now. He's been in the circles of broadcasting for a very long time. Very likable guy too. He's been around for a long time. You could actually say he might have competed at some point with Howard Stern at one point, when it comes to like that morning talk show, radio talk show type stuff. But yeah, so I thought this was fascinating as well, listening to this. And basically, to not play the whole 5 minutes of this, they disagreed on perception of what a homeless person is, right? Because Gavin perceived it as, a woman with kids low wage job, not being able to afford to pay for a place to live, living in the streets. Whereas it's like, well, no, it's not really that bad. It's more like druggies, addicts, and mentally, messed up people are in the streets, and we're only furthering that by just giving them stuff and not really fixing their issues, which is addiction. But they didn't agree to that, and he said that since that, he never came back to do any other follow-up interviews or anything like that with them. I thought that was fascinating. Let's see what else we got going on over here. It says LA Times owner regrets endorsing Mayor Bass. Yeah, too little, too late. But I guess, at the same time, it's better late than never, right? So it just depends on how you look at it. And I played this the other day, and her word salad advice to the LA fire victims. It's just like how she was talking too the other day. There's just a bunch of crap, The word salad stuff is just funny as hell. Let's listen to it again, because this is going to be like the last days of Kamala. We might not even hear from her for a very long time. Maybe when she's running for California, what do you call that, governor, when Gavin is up. It's pretty funny. Let's see.
Lots of people who still have a home, who are under evacuation order. I know you want to get back home, but this is a time to be patient. There is still so much work that firefighters, police officers, FEMA, and others are doing that is about search and rescue. The work that still needs to be done to ensure the safety around utility lines. This work is still very much in progress. And so it's critically important that, to the extent you can find, anything that gives you an ability to be patient in this extremely dangerous and unprecedented crisis, that you do.
Yeah, whatever. All right, so yeah, whatever. America dodged a bullet with Kamala. Yeah, but not California. California might end up getting her again because you guys are a bunch of clowns, a bunch of dummies. Yeah, so this is the interview part here. That he was talking about the interview with Gavin Newsom. That was fascinating. Let's see what else we got here. Pretty funny shit. There we go. So recall is becoming a big name topic again.
We're gonna get absolutely jacked.
No,
it's crazy.
Just looking for clean protein.
Campaigns to remove Governor Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass from office have gained steam as devastating wildfires continue to rage in California. The two officials have faced sharp censure over their handling of the wildfires that first erupted on January 7th. The fires have killed at least 24 people, torched 12,000 structures, and destroyed large sections of the greater Los Angeles area. California activist Randy Economy, who is leading the movement to recall Newsom, said he expects to file papers in the next 2 weeks to start the recall process. Recall supporters will have to gather roughly 1.3 million signatures in the next 5 months. The fires have also reignited the feud between Newsom and President-elect Donald Trump. Trump has repeatedly called on Newsom to resign and alleged that the California governor is to blame for problems regarding the state's water management.
It is his fault.
Newsom has denied Trump's assertions and launched an independent investigation into the drops in water pressure in local fire hydrants and reported unavailability of water.
As I said, it's not about finger pointing. It's about answering the questions you and everybody wants answered. And I think there's a propensity to wait to answer those questions. And people.
He's so full of shit. He's a scumbag, man. This dude will try to find every excuse in the book not to take any blame for anything that he's done. And California's been so bad in the last 10 years.
People want immediacy. They want response and responsiveness. And so that's the idea.
The California governor also suggested that Trump would try to block federal assistance for the disaster unilaterally.
Well, I mean, he's done it.
I don't think so. I just think that, and I do agree with the whole talk of there should be strings attached, meaning that that almost like oversight on to how the spending is going to be placed because of all the irresponsible spending that they've done with all the money in California, and yet it's a failed system of everything. So they want to make sure that the money is spent correctly. And I don't see anything wrong with that because we're the only state that has a problem with spending, and problems got worse, right? And the corruption and everything within the government. And so the argument with liberals is that, oh, how come you can't do that? You don't do that with the hurricane states because they didn't mismanage their budgets. They were prepared for it. Yeah, there was still destruction. You can't prevent all destruction from happening, but they were there to help with all the issues that was happening during those hurricanes. They were better prepared to respond, right? Whereas here, look at everything. It's just a mess, right? And the actions taken before the hurricanes, such as not using U.S. forestry or PG&E to clean up brush and foliage and dead stuff, rework power lines underground, doing all kinds of stuff that they should have been doing, and just for better infrastructure, better preparation, and better way of possibly handling a potential wildfire that may come, and instead cut the budget to spend on some nonsense. So the arrogance of Gavin Newsom here, because he's a Rico Suave, and he's the man, right? Is the failure of himself, right? The failure of Gavin Newsom is the failure of himself. He's just terrible, and he wants to be president. And but the problem is that all the wrongs that he has done, he doesn't hold himself accountable. And to me, he should be recalled because of all the irresponsible spending. I mean, if he was running a company and you drove $24 billion to solve a problem that didn't solve a problem, it got worse, and now you had bonds in place to address homeless yet again this time, right? That got passed. You have that. High-speed rail, that's been a fail. Illegals coming in that you're allowing and funding, right? You're going against the grain of everybody in California. It's a disservice. And to me, that's why if you don't resign, then you should be recalled because, if you, it's like anything else, right? The captain goes down with the ship. All that stuff. And then secondly, with Mayor Bass, she lies a lot. I mean, she's just like a typical Democrat, right? Lie a lot. She says she would not travel during her time as mayor. She would not travel out of city or out of state, whatever it was. And she traveled to Africa like 4 times. That's been reported. Things like that, And if you look at her past, she has a sketchy past too that people just didn't see, I guess. But she's terrible, in terms of preparation, because she cut the budget, and again, it's like the same thing. You cut the fire budget and trying to redirect that towards, what is it? Homeless, right? It's like this homeless thing is a funnel, a money pit, funneling money to whatever it is that they're doing, which is nothing. So it's feeding the pockets of non-governmental organizations. It's feeding the pockets of non-profits, and it's feeding their pockets, right? Him, because they keep feeding to this whole homeless, situation that they are supposedly paying that doesn't exist because the homeless population has gotten worse in California. Like we have 30 to 40% of the homeless population in California, or that's representative of the United States in California, and it doesn't make sense. So, and then you leave all these other vulnerabilities, right? Like the potential of, what could have been a better way of handling wildfires was your typical maintenance, right? And it didn't go that way, So it's just stupid. This whole thing is stupid, right? And they gotta take the blame for themselves, So let's see here. This is a very good, fascinating segment that they present here.
See that guy? That used to be me.
Talk about this.
Overweight, tired all the time, flabby and unfulfilled.
Danger in California is far from over. LA firefighters continue to be on high alert as extreme winds threaten to turbocharge the monstrous wildfires that have already killed 24 people. And as brave firefighters battle to put out those flames, desperate Gavin Newsom is busy picking a fight with Elon Musk.
Really?
He's posted twice on social media about the world's richest man, accusing the billionaire of spreading, quote, lies about the state's response. He also says that Musk is, quote, encouraging looting. But California voters are tired of Greasy's failed leadership. Newsom is facing a growing...
the soft on crime policies that... Of course, that's encouraging looting. That's encouraging the existing crime problems that have occurred in California these last few years. So, of course, they encourage looting. As long as it's under $950 of looting, it's just like they'll have at it.
Recall attempt to knock him out of office. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is also facing a recall effort. She just got asked by a reporter if she regrets her trip overseas to Africa. Watch this.
Looking back, would you have taken that trip overseas?
I am going to focus today
but please,
on what we know.
All right. What do you think of that, Dana?
A couple things. Well, I was saying, why doesn't she just say no?
Yeah.
Because what I didn't know, I think I read this yesterday, when she was running for office, she said, I will never go on a foreign trip. And she's been on 4 Los Angeles taxpayer dollar foreign trips since she's been in office, which hasn't really been that long. So
she's only been in office a couple years.
All mayors should just say, I'm not going on the foreign trips, so let's just erase that. The other thing is,
I mean, I don't get that either. Like, when you have these mayors that go on foreign trips, just like when Adams in New York went to Bahamas or something like that, and he went somewhere. I forgot where it was. It wasn't Bahamas. He went somewhere that it's like, okay, that's kind of questionable. Like, why is he going out there? That type of stuff. It's like, or even Gavin Newsom flying to China. It's like, for what? Unless it's doing something for the sake of the state, which obviously it wasn't. It'd be very questionable. Like, what business do we have in Africa except, nothing, because Bass just went out there for the inauguration of their president, which she probably won't even show up for our president, which is sad,
They're talking about Republicans being political. In the middle of these fires on Sunday night, the California legislatures and Gavin Newsom announced they had struck a $50 million deal on the plan to Trump-proof California, so that they could make sure that illegal immigrants could be represented by lawyers in the government to help avoid deportation. The other thing is, Newsom also said that pointing out California's soft on crime laws is encouraging looting.
Yeah.
Well, guess what actually encouraged looting? The soft on crime laws.
Right.
That's what happened. That only just recently changed in the last election.
Yeah, isn't that common sense? I mean, like, duh, right?
What Dana refers to, Jesse, is the fact that Proposition 47 that reduced sentences and also reduced the felonies to a misdemeanor were at the behest of Governor Gavin Newsom. He was into reducing crime, criminalizing, and he didn't support Proposition 36 that just got passed when California supported it, raising and increasing sentences for drugs and theft. Basically, he was supporting repeat offenders continuing to loot with no real consequence.
So I guess you can loot from someone's burned out home less than $1,000, and that's okay.
Yeah.
With Gavin Newsom. I think the big frustration is that you can see the United States be able to build anything, anywhere, anytime overseas, but you can't do it in California because it takes 10 years to build a reservoir in California. But if we wanted to build a reservoir in Ukraine, We could do it in 6 months because that's a matter of life and death. But it's also a matter of life and death in California. Why isn't California on a war footing? It's the most riskiest place you could ever live. And you know better than anybody, Judge, with beauty comes great risk. You put yourself in the most beautiful part of the coastline, but you have to deal with earthquakes, wildfires, and mudslides. But the government doesn't mitigate the risk because there's this toxic brew of lawsuits and regulation and ideology and incompetence that you can just get rid of because now he's just getting rid of all the red tape to rebuild. But are we going to let him? What, are we just going to keep destroying Western civilization and then paying to rebuild it over and over again? No.
Yeah, and doing all this and then expect the government to step in and give a handout to fix it, and rather than be the person to, maintain and stay on top of possible issues that may come, rather than wait for the issues to come and then expect the government to bail out, right? That's what it is. When California goes through this, what happens? They want the government to bail them out, right? And instead of budgeting to, potentially fix it for the future, it's an ongoing thing over and over again. Okay, here's another disaster. All right, let me put my hand out. We'll have the government help us with that and fix it back again. No, I mean, it needs a change.
There has to be strings attached to this money.
I agree.
Because we're not going to go bankrupt because California's stupid. They have lost $24 billion on the homeless, $50 billion on COVID jobless claims. They lost what? $23 billion on a train? It doesn't even go anywhere. So they completely fail every leadership test in California, from natural disasters to COVID to the riots. And we can't let it happen again.
You know, Jessica, Newsom is facing a recall, and California is not.
The problem is, by the time, I still think that by the time the recall does go through, it's like he's almost done. It's like, but I guess they'll just put a stain on him to run for president in the future, which is not a bad thing at all. So I'm still all for it. I just think that people are stupid if you actually vote to keep Gavin Newsom in after this too. I don't know. It's just it bugs me that we couldn't recall him last couple times based on his stupidity.
It used to be. We're going to see the trend change in California, such as we saw it in the last election, where it went up 6 points for Donald Trump. It went down 6 points for Kamala compared to Biden. What do you think that the chances are of a recall happening?
Well, they've already had a recall on Gavin Newsom, and he won by an even bigger margin.
Yeah, well, that was a long time ago before this disaster.
Wasn't that long ago. Listen, I understand we all have pipe dreams in life.
This Jessica chick here
California's going to go red.
Dummy. She's such a moron.
It's not going to happen. Gavin Newsom will remain governor, and I actually haven't seen that much emphasis on a Newsom recall. I think Karen Bass is in a lot more trouble than Gavin Newsom is in terms of leadership.
They both should be recalled.
Here. In terms of the quote-unquote, going after Elon Musk, this isn't just like a rando rich guy. This guy is part of the administration. I'm not going to say that he's co-president, but he runs a federal bureaucracy and is in charge of cutting $2 trillion from the budget, and he inserted himself. He went to a fire briefing to ask questions, pulled off the internet from all these conspiracy theories about budgets and water levels, et cetera. I mean, there's also a story.
And by the way, Elon has donated Cybertrucks into the fire areas to help with like transportation, internet connection, that sort of stuff, which is interesting to me. I don't know. And Starlink connections too, because if you're having issues with just communication, he has a Starlink satellite communication from the Cybertrucks, which is pretty cool.
Going around that the California government confiscated Starlink modems, or said that the government can't work in conjunction with them. Now, to your point about that strings need to be attached to this, I have never heard from anybody who's advocating for strings to be attached to aid say this about any other natural disaster. And good on
DeSantis usually does a pretty good job.
Really? Okay. Well, things have happened other places. Like, let's talk about Louisiana. There's been $120 billion in aid spent on Louisiana in the last 2 decades. Have you ever said anything about Louisiana?
Louisiana doesn't have a history.
Don't try to justify
misusing funds
to
the level.
See, that's the whole reasoning. She's trying to argue, oh, you shouldn't be doing that because we never do that to other places. the point of it is what he just said. They don't have a history of irresponsible spending and non-preparation like California has been, and so there's a history of that. It's all right there. We've seen it, and for her to say that, and that's what all liberals are arguing, is that it doesn't make sense because California's been terrible, and we need to change California's terrible habits, and it has to start at leadership.
Of Democrats in California.
I think we should look under the hood of Louisiana for a second. Tom Tillis, to
they
his
haven't
credit,
wasted $24 billion on a train to nowhere.
Tom Tillis, North Carolina, said we need to treat everyone the same that we treated the people of Western North Carolina.
But
Rick
at
Scott
some
said
point,
that as well.
If you are delinquent and derelict in protecting people,
because you want to make a partisan point, and
no,
because
I don't want to make
Trump
a partisan
hates
point.
Gavin, really?
Jessica, will you? I don't want to make a partisan point. I want to say this: if you can't protect the people of California, where you know fires are coming, where you know the fires are burning for years, and you don't even know if a reservoir is empty. You can't even get water pressure out of a fire hydrant. You can't do any forestry management. Then, damn, at some point, you got to pay for it, not the rest of us.
Okay, what about when the grid froze in Texas in 2021? Something that they've been warned about. All right, what? Governor Abbott, I didn't hear anything like Governor Abbott doesn't deserve any help. I mean, Ted Cruz went to Cancun, which is a whole other
story.
How about
the money that the state taxpayers of Texas paid in order to protect the border, which was a federal government?
Yeah, so 2021, this is going to be my last point. 2021, Texas froze, right? It was one of those unnatural events that happened, like what do they call it, a black swan event that happened in Texas where infrastructure went down. Millions of people didn't have power. People froze. People died, right? The thing about that is that Texas passed legislation to improve the power grid structure in Texas to help mitigate future occurrences, say if it was to happen again, which, the whole snowstorm or freezing occurrence did happen again 2 years later in 2023. And it did further mitigate what would have been, millions of people once again affected, to where it was only like, 100,000, a couple 100,000 people that was affected during this whole snowstorm freezing occurrence that happened in Texas. So yeah, Texas took action because they didn't want that to happen again, whereas California has had a history of fires and fires and fires, right? Because this is a state that has natural occurring fires, and yet has done nothing to fix it or improve upon response or preparation for it, and simple maintenance, right? So anyhow, that's the latest here. I just wanted to share with you guys. They should. I think the recall should be in place, and they both should step down. All right. I think we just need to douche. We got to douche everything, all right? So that's what we got to do here in California, like a reboot. But anyhow, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Comment down below, let me know what you think. And let's see here. What's this? Jen Psaki, she's probably going to kiss ass here. Yeah, maybe let me check this out here. What's she gonna do? She's probably
at Spectrum, we believe every day unlocks unlimited possibilities. Spectrum transforms your gaming experience into a galaxy of adventures.
It is gonna be the most costliest in the history.
You're always front row to the entertainment you love. Switch to
Democrats
Spectrum Internet
never,
Premier.
ever take accountability for anything.
This is already going to be the most costly outbreak of wildfires in American history, and you're going to need a tremendous amount of resources. You called a special session of the legislature back in yesterday to hopefully sign into law new funding, additional funding for wildfires in the next couple of days. And just to be clear, because this is an area where there's been a little bit of misinformation, you want that wildfire disaster relief funding to go forward on its own as quickly as possible?
100%, yeah. Unlike what's happening in the federal government, where they're trying to condition the debt ceiling to disaster recovery for Americans in the state of California, we'll never condition any of that. It has to be clean, $2.5 billion, let it go. And that's just a down payment. That's just an immediate down payment with all the other support from the SBA and FINA and philanthropy and, of course, all the work that we're doing to hold insurance companies accountable to moving claims forward. I just met with 40-plus leaders in the insurance industry, CEOs and presidents. We just had to come to Jesus on making sure it's a transparent process, a responsible process. We're going to hold folks accountable to actually getting checks in people's hands. At the same time, we also talked about the stress on the insurance market, not just the insurance market with the private insurers, but the FAIR plan in California, which is not a government plan, but it is a syndicate pool where the exposure obviously is going to be profound and significant. And we're making determinations, stress testing the ability to pay those claims as well.
Can the people, the FAIR plan, can the people of California who are going to have to rebuild their homes, can they be confident that there's going to be enough funding in there?
Yeah.
It's not a government program, but it does.
I think they said that the FAIR plan is underfunded. It was supposed to be a pool of funds to help for people that were underinsured and things like that, but I think it's underfunded in the first place.
Come from insurance companies.
Well, we're going to be accountable to the claims. We're going to follow through on the commitments and the provisions of those requirements. Now, the FAIR plan, to be fair, and by the way, my family's on the FAIR plan in California. I'm intimately aware of its benefits and its shortcomings. It's about caps at $3 million. It's got a reinsurance component on the back end of it, but those claims sometimes only go 30 to 90% of the full value. We have a backup to the backup. As well as it relates to recent legislation I just signed on the FAIR plan, or the Insurance Commissioner advanced that we supported. And so we're stress testing that, and we should within the next 48 hours have a deeper understanding as we inspection teams out here today, which will hopefully come back within the next week and a half, finishing up all of the individual home assessments. We'll have a much deeper understanding.
In the total needs, and I think this is important for people to understand the scope of what is needed to recover. And I know you're not going to have a total number, but President Biden said tens of billions. Some estimates have been 50 billion. Do you have a ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, some of those estimates were aerial estimates that were based on and they're relatively serious assessments.
I go 100 billion.
The fair market value of particular assets, but look, no one has that answer yet, period, full stop. Tens of billions, President Biden's right, that's the estimate. This will be, if not the most costly, among the most costly disasters in U.S. history. The scale and scope of the structures, 12,000+ between the two major fires. Of course, those are structures, and that's a whole determination that's done in the individual inspection. Is the structure just an ADU unit, or is it the actual home? Some structures, that structure number will dramatically change, or at least marginally change by the end of the assessment. But this is not just about homes, this is about community, this is about churches that have burned down, this is about schools that have burned down, playgrounds, and of course commercial corridors here in Altadena, historic, extraordinary, beautiful commercial corridors, iconic, that are lost as well.
Jen Psaki joins us now. Jen, you're obviously in L.A. Help us understand what has stood out to you today, both.
All right, whatever. So, recall efforts underway. They got to go. All right, straight up. Costliest in U.S. history. He's going to hit $100 billion. Watch. Anyhow, that's the latest here. Comment down below. Subscribe, hit the bell icon for the, your daily content. Thank you, and I'll see you next one.